some news from the AI world. Like I said, a lot has happened, but I will of course not discuss everything. I'll just highlight a few things which I think were especially important. And those things mainly relate to three or four items. One of them concerns OpenAI, or two of them actually. Another two concern Anthropic, and one concerns Apple. So regarding OpenAI, you might have heard or not that OpenAI announced last week that they will change their strategy and refocus or reorient it towards businesses. So they want to make money actually, and they will not make money just with individuals like you and me, who either do not pay or pay minimal money. When I say minimal money, it's €8 for the first plan, or €20 a month for the Pro plan. It's called Pro. So far, it was just great. Things have changed for today. So 2 days ago, there has been a big drift. And this is something I will explain right now. So, with OpenAI, they decided to refocus on businesses like Anthropic has been doing. And you might have heard that Anthropic, for the first time, has surpassed OpenAI's in terms of turnover. OpenAI's turnover is below 30 billions, whilst Anthropic's is above 30 billions. And interestingly, OpenAI is worth about 300 billions, whilst Anthropic is worth about 30 billions. 10 times less, so 10 times cheaper on the market, if I can say so, but it generates the same revenue, or a wee bit more revenue than OpenAI. This means OpenAI had to really make a radical strategic shift, and this shift was announced a week ago and implemented. It has been implemented since Friday, so it means it's been very quick. And with this shift, what has happened? You had someone who was Sumo Fiji, head of revenues at OpenAI. She stepped down for health reasons, and after she quit, the entire board, the entire management team has been reorganized. And with this reorganization, there has also been a new pricing policy. And that's the important thing with the pricing policy. That is, OpenAI has now decided that they would charge per usage. And this means that there are limits that apply, and when you reach your limit, you are suspended or blocked. You cannot use it for a certain number of hours until your, let's say, limits are recharged. You can top up by paying some extra money as you go. You can pay as you go. Something like this resonates very much with what Anthropic has been doing for a while. And now OpenAI, that was known for its generosity, is doing the same. So just aligning with Anthropic. But, and it's a big but, OpenAI now has become more expensive than Anthropic. With Anthropic, when you with OpenAI, you have to. The OpenAI realized that Codex, the developers tool, is costing them a fortune, and I've been using it abundantly. Really, I've developed, if you know, my website, my CRM, and other software using Codex, and this with the €20 plan. So it was wonderful, fantastic from my perspective. But now, if I want to use it, I have to use it well. I have to pay for a better plan. I have to upgrade my plan, which I did just 1 hour ago, because it's just unbearable when you are blocked in the middle of something. You're in the middle of working, and then you're told, oh no, you have reached your limit. Wait for another 3, 4, 5 hours, and then you can resume your work. No, it's not pleasant at all. So I upgraded, and I had known for a few days already that the OpenAI plans are a wee bit more expensive than their counterparts at Anthropic. This means that OpenAI is now radically changing from a quasi-free model to an expensive model. And with this, I think they're making a big strategic mistake. Really, really big. Of course, they're incurring big costs. We know all about their huge investments and everything that has been announced with NVIDIA, with others, hundreds of billions of dollars. We all know that. We know that AI and those models need a lot of electricity to be run. We know that they need many chips, processors, etc. So we all know that. So we also know that OpenAI had been running at a loss, and that Codex had been running at a loss for the company. Right. Based on this, yes, they had to restore profitability and to either reduce costs or increase value. What they have done is that they did a bit of both. They've given up 𝗠𝗢𝗦𝗧, which was the video generation tool, because it was too expensive to run and not profitable, could not be profitable, as it was used by the general public. So they relinquished. At the same time, they're increasing the cost of their plans. But what is strategically problematic here is that in so doing, they are looking exactly like Anthropic, but without the same reputation as Anthropic. Anthropic has long made this choice of being more expensive. So more expensive, you know, they have two plans, one which is $90 a month, another one which is $190 a month, and with those plans you can have an extra usage or with higher limits. And then with Anthropic you can pay as you go if you reach your limit. This is the reason why I chose not to go for Anthropic. So I have a pro plan which is 20 something a month with Anthropic, but I decided not to go beyond precisely because I do not like the peep show you have here. I do not like their idea of putting more tokens, more coins in the machine if you want to use it. So I need some foreseeability and some predictability in my cost, in my own expenses. So that's the main reason. And now OpenAI is doing exactly the same, which is a problem in itself, but also it's more expensive. which means that they lose something which made them unique. They were competitive to the public, they were popular because they were affordable. Anthropic did not mean to be affordable, Anthropic did not mean to be popular, but as a result, Anthropic is popular, OpenAI is no longer popular, and this has been subsequent to this thing relating to the Pentagon and the contract I mentioned some time ago, announcing that Anthropic would be in big trouble. So now we find that Anthropic is popular and competitive whilst expensive and is making money. OpenAI is less popular. OpenAI is not profitable, and OpenAI is becoming more expensive than Anthropic. Strategically speaking, I am afraid that this is bound to make them lose clients. I hesitated yesterday when I saw that I reached my limit. I hesitated, thinking, for this price, shall I stick to OpenAI or shall I go for Anthropic? And I was seriously considering going for Anthropic. Do you know what retained me? What retained me is that I'm feeling sort of stuck with OpenAI because I have started doing all my development with Codex, with its specific way of developing tools and software, etc. And it's never good changing developers, changing tools in the course of something. And I was just in the middle of something. But in the future, it could be in a month's time, in 2 months' time, I do not know, I may well quit OpenAI and go for Anthropic. I may. And here, what I'm saying here is not just that it's me, but imagine they had people who were sort of captive, I would have paid $50 a month without this being a real problem. But here, without notice, they're deciding to increase their price and being more expensive than Anthropic, less popular and perhaps not as good. Why stay? Why should you stay there? Some people tend to think that this is the course of history. This is the natural course of events, whereby at the end of the day, someone has to pay for AI. And this would be the new standard after they have developed, after they have gained, they have attracted users, after they have become necessary to everyday life. Then, once you're captive, they increase their prices. I would say probably true, but, and it is a big but, we have at the same time the Chinese government, which is strongly supporting AI companies in the country, so they develop new models. And DeepSeek is developing open source models, which means models that you can amend, you can change the code, you can fine-tune them, you can make them personal, you can have them on your own servers, on your own premises without paying. So this means that we have, on one hand, the two US giants, Anthropic and OpenAI, incurring big costs and being forced to be profitable. And on the other hand, you've got DeepSeek and its open source models that come to challenge the cost dimension. They're adopting clearly a cost domination or price domination strategy. And with this, my intuition is that Chinese models and DeepSeek is is intending to drain Anthropic's and OpenAI's resources at some point, making them sort of insolvent or unable to continue or keep up with things, so that if at some point they have Anthropic or OpenAI have to align price-wise, then they will probably, I'm not saying go bankrupt, but they will probably no longer be able to follow. And this means that either they will just struggle, disappear, downgrade their models so as to keep up with low cost, low prices, or they are bound to be absorbed by others. And I mentioned ages ago that I think Anthropic will someday end up being absorbed by Amazon. I do believe that OpenAI might end up being absorbed by Microsoft. But it's perhaps not just for today, but it is something that I believe would happen, is bound to happen. Google, so Gemini is with Google strong enough, so they're the soul who should not worry about anything. So all this to say that OpenAI, I think, is sort of held up between two conflicting constraints. One is be competitive with low enough prices so you can attract users, and the other constraint is be profitable. So have enough resources or revenue that cover your costs, and you cannot do both at the same time. And when you have the Chinese models that come and say we are both, we are competitive, we are strong, and we are profitable, then the others might not be able to resist. That's the big thing, I think. Something to follow. Next is that last week there was a leak in at Anthropic, a leak in its code. 500,000 lines of code were released publicly. It was an accident, but it was not looking too good at the time where Anthropic is about to be listed, to go public. So this was the second time, as the same thing had happened 2 weeks prior, where another couple of hundreds of lines of code had been publicly shared in error. So this means that any other company could reuse, so could know Anthropic's fabrication secrets, and could also reuse the code as the code had not been protected. And this could start with Chinese AI companies, the same ones. So not good on Anthropic. This was last week. And this week, the media have mentioned something which is a bit older than just a week, but Anthropic decided not to release its latest model called 𝗦𝗧, because it is a model that can detect security holes in codes, and that could, of course, once they're identified, that could launch attacks, cyber attacks, as they consider it's too dangerous. They decided not to release it. And so you can have an idea, 𝗦𝗧 was designed to detect those security holes over the past 20 or 25 years. And something interesting is that they discovered within a few seconds 22 major security holes just in Firefox. This means that for other resources, they could just find security holes within a couple of hours. Imagine the Pentagon, imagine anywhere, intelligence services or the central bank or whatsoever. There could be massive attacks. Based on this, they decided not to release it, but they've decided to share their concerns and some of their cybersecurity advances with the other AI companies, with OpenAI, with Google, with Microsoft, with Amazon. I do not know more about this, but all this to say that Anthropic has been confronted with a big dilemma. And the dilemma has been solved as we're not disclosing, but we are sharing cybersecurity concerns, sort of creating a cybersecurity trust with other tech companies. That's the big piece of news on those two fronts. One is OpenAI's new business model with the risk I see in it. Two is Anthropic's leak and mythos. Three, the revenue gap between the two. And the last thing I wanted to share with you for now is that last week was Apple's 50th anniversary, and Tim Cook, who has been in office for 15 years, is considering stepping down, and now there starts being speculations and conjectures as to who will take over after him. Something very interesting with Apple's anniversary is that Apple is still the most profitable tech company in the world, although they have not engaged in AI by themselves. Their users, including myself, are not complaining about the absence of an Apple AI model. It is not a concern. I would say, I don't care, really. And Apple has done very well, I think. A number of commentators would say that they've missed AI and they're behind. Yeah, possibly. Or I would say they have let others make the big expenses, and they will probably go for AI when it is technologically and financially stabilized. So they will benefit from AI advances without contributing to its financial development in the first place. I think it's very clever. I think it is the probable explanation of what happened, what Tim Cook decided to do or not to do. So, so I would say that it was not a strategic error, it was probably a strategically smart decision. And now Apple has been very profitable through the App Store, through software, not the ones it is developing itself, but through the ones from which it derives revenues that they generate for the account of developers. So that's very clever. Google is doing something relatively similar with Android and the App Store, but with Google, it is really an industry in itself. So they can afford to launch the Apple Neo. You may have seen this. It was last week or 2 weeks ago. A laptop, so a cheap laptop, affordable laptop, less than $700, that has the same processor as the latest generation iPhone, which means it's a processor which was from an earlier generation than those in the current MacBooks or iMacs or even older ones, but it's as strong as an iPhone 17. So not too bad and pretty inexpensive for an Apple product. So they can afford to do that and to have other clients captive who will pay for, who will generate revenues through apps they download on their computers, on their phones, and developers will subsidize Apple. So the question now is, what direction will Tim Cook's successor want to follow? Will he or she continue, perpetuate what Tim Cook has been doing for 15 years by further developing services and the software industry, or will the successor more go back on design? Will the successor invest the massive cash the company has in AI? We don't know. And there are speculations going on at the moment as to what Apple is bound to do and what their new CEO is bound to do. To be followed, to be continued, because there is something really interesting, I think,